Hey everybody, I'm Stu Cowan. Welcome to this special summer edition of the HIO show. Our panel here doesn't really need any introduction, but Chris Nilan, Jack Todd, and Pat Hickey. Here's what we're going to be talking about on this week's show. Number one, Alexander Radulov reportedly wants a 6-year, $42 million contract. Would you give it to him? Andrei Markov is reported to be seeking a 2-year deal worth $12 million. Would you give him that? Marc Bergevin has been on the GM as the Canadiens now for 5 years. Could his job possibly be in jeopardy this season, depending on what happens on the ice? Another big one. Should Marc Bergevin consider trading goalie Carey Price, who can become an unrestricted free agent next July? If he does re-sign him, what kind of money and what terms should he be looking at? And finally, does Alex Galchenyuk have a future in Montreal? And if so, what can we expect from him? Let's start the show. Canadiens goalie Carey Price becomes an unrestricted free agent next July 1st, or he can become an unrestricted free agent next July 1st. Should Marc Bergevin consider trading him, Chris? And if not, what kind of contract should the goalkeeper be getting?
Carey Price, I'm going to think he's going to get somewhere around. I was first thinking he was going to get like $12 million a year, but I think that's a little steep. I think he could get that if he went out there as a free agent and tended some offers. But I think he's going to be somewhere between $10 and $11 million for Bergevin. And
8 years?
I think he's going to do it. Yeah, I think they're going to give him what he wants.
Connor McDavid got 13, or he's going to get 13
Yeah.
million, Jack. I don't know.
More? It's a tough call. Somebody said that McDavid's going to be making 19% of their cap. So you've got almost a fifth of your cap tied up with one player. And you see the situation in Chicago with Taves and Kane, a huge amount invested in these guys, and then you have such a hard time building around them. You know what? If I were him, and I'm sure he is, he's maybe not dangling him as trade bait, but you got to listen.
I would be shopping him around, I think, Pat, just because they haven't won with him. Not that it's a knock on Carey Price, but the team can't score, and Carey Price can't score. I don't know. Would you consider shopping him?
I think if you've got a John Tavares, if you got a top-line center, you would have to think of trading him. But first of all, you have to try to sign him. If he's willing to stay here, then you sign him to a long-term deal. The McDavid deal was throwing everything out of whack. Before this, you certainly saw Taves and Kane getting big contracts before they changed the rules. And now things are a little different. But to invest that amount of money, the other thing is you got to try to figure out what the value of a goaltender. These things are always changing. But on a team that can't score, the goaltender becomes far more valuable. If you can't score, your only chance is to have a good goaltender.
Unless you can trade that goalie for somebody who can score.
That's the key. You have to try to find something. You look at teams that have won the Stanley Cup without great goaltenders. Jimmy Howard, Chris Osgood in Detroit, even Fleury when he was in Pittsburgh. Good goaltender, not a great goaltender. And now you saw a team win with no defense.
Well, defense is a question mark with the Canadiens right now, right? The goaltender's in a good position here. I wouldn't think of moving him, especially the way the defense is here now. If they can get another up front, honestly, I think Bergevin has seen that and looked at, the fact that Pittsburgh won with a very marginal group on the blue line, but they had very good offense and they had adequate goaltending.
The thing you have to think about, though, is Carey Price, does he look at the defense and say, hey, do I want to play behind some of the guys they have now? Particularly since you just gave away a guy who presumably would be a stud defenseman for 10, 12 years in the future.
Yeah, it won't happen, but I thought maybe Marc Bergevin might look into getting Marc-Andre Fleury, because it wouldn't have taken much to get him out of Pittsburgh for like a 2-year, 3-year window until Charlie Lindgren's ready to come in. Yeah. But I think in the end, Marc Bergevin is going to sign him. He said that was his number one priority, and he's never lied to us before.
It has to be.
All right, on with Marc Bergevin. He's been GM of the Canadiens for 5 years now, going into his 6th year. Could his job possibly be on the line this season, Chris?
Always a possibility. I think he's done a good job here, regardless if he lies or not. I don't care if he lies
it's part
to
of the
anybody.
GM's job.
Yeah, I don't care. It's like, President of the United States. Everybody thinks they need to know everything. Shut up. You don't need to know everything. There's some things we don't need to know. And I think he's done a good job here. You look at in a cap world, I know he gets knocked because it's really hard to go get this player and that player. But let's face it, this is kind of a boring league. There are a couple teams that are really up there as far as their identity and skating, Chicago, Nashville. teams that can open up, Edmonton. But you're not going to get every team to do that. And on any given night, any team can beat another team. There's so much parity. There's nothing that sets teams apart, really. There isn't. You know, a couple teams, like I say, they got superstars. But there isn't a whole lot of... You look in the NBA, the way teams are and the way they got that run and gun game and they market it. This team, nothing sets a team in the NHL apart from another team. It really doesn't. Everything is so even. So I think you look at their regular season record and the success they had in the playoffs in the first couple years he was here, and they missed it last year. And going out in the first round, not good. Anybody's job in that situation could be up for grabs, maybe. But I think Bergevin, I think he's going to be okay. I think the owner likes him and he likes the job he's doing.
I don't think if it's this season. I think if they miss the playoffs this season, next season could be. My concern with Bergevin is I don't know if I think he almost made the team worse at the trade deadline last year by the moves he made. You know, he brought in Dwight King. I don't know what he saw and Martinson, and you know, and it made like guys.
Jordy Ben was the only.
Jordy Ben was the pickup, but you know, on a team that really needed offense or seemed to need offense, he went out and got 3 defensive guys at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I would first of all I disagree with Chris that there's a lot of parity in the league. Pittsburgh, Chicago, Nashville, those are good teams. Buffalo, Arizona, Carolina are really bad teams.
Colorado.
You know, and I don't think anything's changed. Colorado is another, But, you know, the point is that there's enough room at the top that anything can happen. You go back to the last time the Canadiens won the Stanley Cup in '93, everybody thought Pittsburgh was going to run away with it, and they lost in the second round. So you have situations where, you know, the Canadiens are close. There's a couple of pieces missing. And the key is where they're going to get those pieces now, because it doesn't look very good. It looks like they're striking out and looking for a defenseman, and they're not helping the offense.
Well, the parity aspect, when you look, you know, the Nashville Predators finished 8th in the West, just got into the playoffs and went all the way to the Stanley Cup final. So on that point, you know, Marc Bergevin says we'll get into the playoffs and see what happens, and I guess that'll be his philosophy going into next season also. All right, Andrei Markov is reported to be seeking a 2-year, $12 million contract, representing himself as his agent. Would you give it to him, Chris?
I think you ought to get Boris Badenoff to negotiate for him. Yeah, I think that's much. You know, I think they're going to be. I could see a 2-year deal around $10 million. The $6 million. Why is he wanting? He's saving money, not paying his agent. So just take what they give you there for 2 years. I mean, come on. I know this. I know there is. There should be some loyalty there, but again, this is business, and they've been good to him. They signed him a big deal when his knee was really a big question mark, and you know, I'm sure they'll work it out.
I think he'll be back. Yeah. He's just not comfortable anywhere else. You know, he's always
$5.75 million for 10 straight years. That's a salary cap for the last 10 years.
I think that he's left some money on the table, but as Chris said, he also, you know, there were times when he was injured and they were good to him. I think they've been good to each other, and I think that's why they'll get a deal done. I think one of the things they should do is look at keeping him, you know, working on the loyalty theme. Give him some incentive to stay with the organization afterwards. I don't see him as a coach because his communication problems are a little.
No way.
No, but you can see him, you know, as working in Europe and scouting players and things like that, and doing something along those lines.
But I think one of the reasons he's asking $6 million is he knows they need him.
Oh, right now.
Right now, they're
of course.
throwing defensemen away left and right.
And I would suspect he's actually looking for 5.75. Yeah. The figure he's comfortable with.
Yeah.
Alexander Radulov is looking apparently for a 6-year, $42 million contract as a free agent. Marc Bergevin took a risk on him last year. It definitely worked out. Pat, do they give him that?
I don't think so. I think that 5 years is probably the most I would give him. I would be very hesitant to, you know, he did a good job this year, but you know he didn't. It's not like he had 70 or 80 points. It's not like they had guys that he certainly helped them, but you know he didn't. I liked his work ethic. I liked the work that he went out there and gave you 100% every night. But still, I don't know whether it's worth a 7-year investment at.
Yeah. I hate the term. All these guys.
Yeah.
That Oshie deal to me screwed up everything. You take a kind of a mid-level, good star forward, but not a Ovechkin kind of star. Give him an 8-year contract. I bet every other GM in the league was going, what the crap?
And every agent was going.
Yeah, exactly. Because all of a sudden everything's out of whack. And the problem Bergevin has is he brought in Drouin, plus for the offense. You subtract Radulov, you're back right where you started on offense, and you don't have Sergachev.
And then if you lose Galchenyuk also, it's...
You've got
bad boys. What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys.
Here's the thing too, is that we had Radulov had a reputation for being a little on the wild side when he was in Nashville, things like that. But he came back here. He was married. He had a kid. He's now divorced.
Mm-hmm. And he had a 1-year contract. He was proving himself on a 1-year deal.
And you just have to wonder, there's got to be a red flag that goes up there. You have to have some sort of assurance that he's going to stay on the straight and narrow.
Very large red flag.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
But Russians don't.
Too much money for him. He can get it somewhere else, fine. Bergevin has to have some jam here when it comes to this guy and be ready to walk away from him. 5 years, I was thinking 5 years, 6.57 million a year. Maybe you're going to have to eat a year then, but the ideal contract would be 4.
And I would definitely not have a no move or no trade clause.
Yeah. Well, the thing with him too, it's the excitement factor he brought too, right? I mean,
I
guess they're hoping Drouin
does bring a lot to this team.
With PK gone, he sort of became the new fan favorite. Now another Russian player, actually he's really American, is Alex Galchenyuk. Does this kid have a future in Montreal, Chris? And if so, what can we expect?
First of all, let's clear up one thing. He's an American by birth.
That's right.
He's a Russian by mentality.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, he was born in Milwaukee when his dad was playing in the IHL.
The thing is, he has a Russian sort of attitude.
Yeah.
And, he'll claim up and down that he's an American and things like that, but he's not in the way he approaches the game. And...
his father taught him, right?
Yeah.
Being, a Russian player. And
his father's still teaching him, which might be one of the problems.
A little too much. But, again, Alex, I don't know, it's confusing. Here's a kid who, they draft him as a center. He's had success at the wing, scoring goals. He'd be good on the power play as a center maybe, but 5-on-5. If you watch him, and I hear all the experts out there saying, you got to work with him and make him a centerman. He has to want to do it. He has to want to do it. And he doesn't want to do that job down low in his own end. And that makes it difficult. And does he stay here? Maybe Julian can help him. I don't know. We're going to find out. But he certainly, that's one area he did not improve one bit in his own end. As far as the rest of his game, it's pretty good. Yeah, he had a tough time on faceoffs. A lot of guys do. You're 50% on faceoff circle, you're doing pretty good in this league. But he's way below that. He got to straighten some stuff out.
I think if they give up on him now, though, they're going to regret it.
Well,
I think you got to give Claude Julien a chance to.
Well, he had that great half season, and then he started this past season well, and then he got hurt, and he never really
hurt his
came
knee
back.
again. People forget he re-injured the same knee again.
He never really came back from that injury. So
talking to Claude, the one word he used was commitment. As far as a center, he said that he has to commit to playing down low, helping the defenseman there, and he hasn't shown that so far. But here's where they have a real problem right now because they don't have any centers. I mean, I asked the same thing. The same equation applies to Jonathan Drouin. He has played center. He hasn't played there recently, but right now you're loaded at left wing. You got Max Pacioretty, you got Alex Galchenyuk, you got Jonathan Drouin, you got Arturi Lehkonen. You're great on the left side. But especially if Radulov leaves, the right side is empty, and you got nobody in the middle.
All right, well, Joe Thornton's out there as a free agent. Would he? He's a playmaker. He's going to set up.
Oh yeah,
no better passer ever in the game. He was the best passer to ever play the game.
Oh, he would instantly be the best center here, even if he's not. The guy
even
that
if he's
he was.
90 years old.
Well, if Max Pacioretty can score 30 goals playing with the centers he's been playing with, you wonder what he would do if he had Joe Thornton down the middle.
Oh yeah, and you might get him for a fair price coming.
We're going to find out pretty soon.
We will find out.
Should be
pretty soon.
interesting.
I just don't think if the, I don't know this would be an attractive destination for Joe Thornton.
After San Jose.
San Jose. And,
He probably doesn't own a pair of.
How would you like to go to Montreal?
Boston, I don't
freeze your
think
balls
so.
all winter.
He probably only owns flip-flops. He
Shave
might
the
not even own a
beard.
pair of
You
shoes
can come,
anymore.
but shave the beard.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody for watching this week's show. We'll be back again next Friday with another special edition of HIO, looking at what Marc Bergevin either did or didn't do on the July 1st free agent sweepstakes. Thanks again to my panel, Chris Nilan, Jack Todd, and Pat Hickey. We'll see you again next Friday.